Welcome to Hidden Access. It's a place where you can waste your time on the internet. Welcome to the club.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 6th, and on your screen is a live view of Falcon 9 awaiting its 7:29 a.m. Eastern Time launch from Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And hello from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Shiva Bharadwaj, and I'm a space operations engineer here at SpaceX. Now, you are watching a live webcast for our 13th Starlink mission and our 17th mission for this year. If you've been following along at home, we've had to stand down this mission a few times now due to unfavorable weather conditions, as well as an out-of-family reading on one of our ground system sensors. But all the vehicle systems and ground systems looking healthy today. Weather, we're tracking one item, possible cumulus clouds along the ascent trajectory, so we'll keep you apprised of that as we hear more on the nets. Now, to date, we have launched more than 700 Starlink satellites to orbit. If you're not familiar, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote and rural areas where connectivity is often limited and sometimes completely unavailable. We will be performing 2 second stage burns today to deploy those 60 Starlink satellites about 1 hour into the mission. Those 2 burns allow us to deploy the satellites into a circular orbit, which helps them get to their final orbit, about 550 kilometers above the Earth, much faster. Now, at this point, we are just under T-minus 9 minutes to go until liftoff. All systems looking go for on-time liftoff this morning. Now, on your screen is a live view of the Falcon 9. That's our 2-stage launch vehicle. Falcon 9 is 70 meters tall, which is greater than the wingspan of a 747 aircraft. This particular booster flew for the first time in May, taking Bob and Doug safely to the International Space Station on their historic mission. It also flew again in July for the Anasis 2 mission for the Republic of Korea. And the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that you can see covered in soot from its previous 2 flights, that's what we refer to as the first stage. Its job is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to space with the help of 9 Merlin engines that it has at its base. We will be attempting to recover this first stage for the 3rd time on our drone ship named, Of Course I Still Love You. You can see on your screen there, about 624 kilometers off the east coast of Florida. Now, our first stage is designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment between flights. It'll actually be the 15th time this year that we're flying a flight-proven booster and the 43rd time that we're doing so to date. Atop the first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and on top of that is Falcon 9's second stage. It has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, which is actually hidden from view inside that black inner stage. And once the first and second stages separate about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the Merlin vacuum will ignite to carry those 60 Starlink satellites onto a circular orbit around our planet. Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since the T-minus 35 minute mark. As a reminder, we use a rocket-grade form of kerosene called Rocket Propellant 1, or RP1, as the fuel, and superchilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power Falcon 9. Currently, RP1 is fully loaded on both the first and second stage, liquid oxygen nearly fully loaded on both stages. LOX will be continued to be topped off right until the last 2 minutes before liftoff. Now, at the very top of the rocket is this nose cone structure. This is what we refer to as the satellite fairing, and inside that is a stack of 60 Starlink satellites. The fairing's job is to protect the satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during the ascent portion of the mission. But once we get to the vacuum of space, we actually don't need it anymore. So we'll jettison those fairing halves as the second stage continues its journey to orbit. Now, one of the fairing halves is brand new, but the other previously supported 2 Starlink missions, one in May of 2019 and another in March of this year. And we will be attempting to recover both halves today using our recovery ships named Mystery and Mischief. Now, at this point, quick update on the weather. The 45th Space Wing gave us a 70% chance of go, the primary concern being cumulus clouds along the ascent trajectory. Still waiting to see if we will be go for launch at 7:29 Eastern Time, but from what I've heard, we are trending towards green for launch. Now, with that, vehicle, satellites, weather, and range looking good for an on-time launch. Weather, of course, with that watch item right until the final minutes before liftoff. Now, as many of you know, the Starlink team is well into the first phase of testing with our private beta program. During this time, the Starlink team has been collecting latency statistics and performing standard speed tests on the system. The initial results from these tests have actually been really promising, showing super low latency and download speeds in excess of 100 megabits per second. As we've mentioned previously, we are still in the beginning stages of building out our global satellite internet constellation, but the initial results do look promising, and we're looking forward to rolling out a public beta later on this year. Earlier this week, we also heard from emergency responders in Washington State who have been using Starlink for their purposes and to help bring the residents of Malden, Washington internet service as they rebuild their community following devastating wildfires that hit that area back in August. A representative from the Washington State Military Department said he's never worked any tactical satellite equipment that has been so quick to set up and anywhere near as reliable. And the way that these emergency responders deployed Starlink is actually representative of how it currently works best in remote and rural areas where internet connectivity is sometimes unavailable. As I mentioned, the network is still very much a work in progress, so if you'd like to help build it out, head on over to SpaceX.com and check out our careers page. And if you'd like to receive updates on Starlink news and service availability in your area, please go and visit us at starlink.com. Now, at this point, we are T-4 minutes from liftoff. Just heard on the nets that we are go on weather. Falcon 9 is moving into the final stages of countdown. Vehicle is looking healthy. At this point, the first and second stages have nearly 1 million pounds of that rocket-grade kerosene RP1 fuel on board and liquid oxygen. And the clouds that you're seeing there around the second stage is from actually that super chilled liquid oxygen. We do periodic vents. You actually just saw one there as we continue to top up those propellant tanks until the T-2 minute mark. And when that cold oxygen comes into contact with the moist Florida air, it actually causes water vapor to condense and form actual clouds around the vehicle. Now, we're expecting the first stage to finish up prop loading, so it'll close out LOX loading just under 10 seconds from now. And second stage will be shortly after at about T-2 minutes. Now, about T-60 seconds, Falcon 9.
LOX load closed out.
There's that call out for LOX load closeout. About T-60 seconds, Falcon 9 will transition into startup. That means that the rocket's internal flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown, and they will continue to have control of the vehicle all the way through the rest of the mission. At this point as well, the Starlink payload is continuing to look healthy. No issues being tracked by the Falcon 9 team at this moment. Weather is go for launch. Range is currently green for launch. Coming up around T-2 minutes, we'll hear a second call out here for stage 2 LOX load complete.
Stage 2 LOX load is closed out.
Beautiful shot of pad 39A with the crew tower to the next of it, not using that today. Coming up shortly here, we'll actually see some venting from that large truss structure on the left-hand side of the vehicle. You can see it starting there. That truss structure is what we refer to as the transporter erector. That's what rolled out Falcon 9 to the pad and provides electrical power as well as the propellants that we've been loading into the vehicle. At this point, we're just venting out liquid oxygen that is in the lines on the transporter erector before transitioning into the final steps before liftoff.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
So with that call out, Falcon 9 is now on autonomous internal control. Coming up, we'll hear from the launch director, see if they will give their final go for launch.
LD is go for launch.
So with that, Falcon 9 teams ready to go, vehicle ready to go, weather and range ready to support. why don't we listen in to these final 30 seconds of terminal count.